Welcome to the deep dive.
Uh,
Summer. We often think of it as just pure joy, relaxation, long sunny days.
Absolutely, the postcard version.
Exactly. But the sources we've gathered for you today, they reveal something pretty surprising, actually, and really important about substance use during these warmer months.
That's absolutely right. While, yeah, many look forward to a carefree season, summer actually presents this unexpected, significant challenge.
A challenge, how so?
Well, both for people maybe exploring substances for the first time, and also, crucially, for those who are working hard to maintain their recovery.
Okay.
This deep dive is really going to illuminate why summer can be, as one source put it, a particularly dangerous time for substance abuse.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission today is to explore these unique factors that raise the risk in summer, and maybe more importantly, equip you with some practical strategies to navigate it all. This isn't just about, understanding the problem, right? It's about finding real solutions. So when we picture summer, it's sunshine, barbecues, beach days, that time to decompress, kick back.
The ideal.
It's meant to be that golden season of fun.
And for many people, it is.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating and maybe a bit counterintuitive
Yeah.
is that for quite a few people, the risks of substance misuse might actually increase with the heat, with the freedom of the season.
Right.
Our sources really highlight that for folks in recovery, the fight to stay sober, it can get much harder when the weather warms up and, the social calendar starts exploding.
That really does clash with that easygoing summer vibe most of us have. What exactly did these studies find that makes summer such a high-risk time, especially for, first-time use?
Yeah, the findings are quite stark. There was a large national study, I think, from 2017, and also research from NYU School of Medicine.
Okay.
And they definitively found summer is a high-risk season for people, teens, adults, college students, too, trying drugs for the very first time.
Wow. Any numbers on that?
Oh, yeah. The numbers are pretty compelling. Over a third, specifically 34% of new LSD users, they started in the summer.
34%.
Yeah. And nearly a third, so somewhere between 30 and 30.4% of new marijuana users also initiated during these months.
Okay.
And it's a similar story for ecstasy, or MDMA, that's around 29.8%, and cocaine, with about 27.5 to 28% of new users starting in summer.
Those numbers are genuinely striking. Is there, a particular reason why? Or a specific group, maybe?
Well, one clinical psychologist, Nate Stone, he observed that, you often see teens experimenting because mom and dad are at work.
The lack of supervision.
Exactly. Less supervision, more unstructured time. Now, there are some interesting nuances in the data.
Like what?
For instance, Black individuals were actually less likely to start using cocaine in summer compared to other groups, about 18.2% versus like 27 to 39% for others.
Interesting.
And maybe surprisingly, a 2016 study looking at college freshmen, it showed their alcohol use actually dropped by 29% during the summer.
Exactly.
Yeah. It seems most of their heavier drinking happened during on-campus events when school was in session.
Huh. Okay, so this data clearly paints summer as a risk for first-time use. But it's not just about new users, is it? What about people already in recovery or, actively dealing with substance use disorder? How does summer hit them?
That's a really critical point. We heard from Andrew Brown. He's a program manager in recovery services, been in recovery himself for 13 years.
Okay.
And he shared very openly how so many activities during the summer are tied to drinking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Everything from, being out on the water to playing golf. He described it as a hard time for myself.
And I guess there's an added layer of concern now, right, with the whole post-pandemic situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Both Andrew Brown and Nate Stone mentioned worrying about a potential powder keg.
Powder keg.
Yeah, given this sort of elevated anxiety and depression many people are still feeling,
Yeah.
the sources pointed out the pandemic itself saw like a 13% increase in substance use and an 18% increase in overdoses. So there's this real fear that with the summer social season ramping up, substance use could just go into overdrive.
That's concerning.
And this brings us to an important way to think about relapse. It's often a process, you see, not usually a sudden failure.
Right.
It's more like a diagnostic signpost. It tells you exactly where a recovery plan needs adjusting, needs a critical pivot. It's feedback, really, not failure.
That's a helpful way to frame it.
Yeah. And just for context, general relapse rates are strikingly high. For alcohol addiction, it's maybe 40–60% within a year.
40 to 60%.
Yeah. It can go up to 90% for opioid addiction, and it's also high for stimulant addictions. Nicotine, too, 80–90%. Marijuana tends to be a bit lower. But seeing those numbers really underscores how tough recovery is, and it makes understanding these summer-specific factors even more crucial. And what's really fascinating here is why. The reasons behind this summer surge are incredibly multifaceted. It's not just one simple thing.
It never is it? So what's the biggest factor driving this? Or maybe the most surprising one?
Well, let's start with maybe the most obvious but still really powerful one.
Yeah.
Increased social activities and those environmental triggers.
Right, the barbecues and parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Summer is just packed with gatherings, barbecues, beach parties, festivals, weddings, family vacations, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And substances are often just there. They're prevalent, sometimes normalized at these events,
Yeah.
which means more exposure, more peer pressure, maybe that fear of missing out, FOMO, or just feeling pressure to fit in.
Totally.
And for someone in recovery, these settings can mean bumping into people or being in places or even smelling things tied to past use, powerful triggers, often subconscious. Then there's the whole vacation mindset and the change in routine,
Letting loose.
right? Summer often brings this sense of freedom and escape, but that can be a real double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, relaxing rules and structure can be great, but can also totally disrupt the routines that are vital for recovery.
Like meetings, therapy.
Exactly. Regular meetings, therapy sessions, even just consistent sleep patterns can go out the window. And travel. That can physically separate people from their support systems, their familiar, safe environments, making them feel more vulnerable.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Third, and this one might surprise some people, emotional triggers and the direct impact on mental health.
Emotional triggers in summer. I usually think of winter blues.
Right. But summer can actually trigger things like nostalgia or feelings of loneliness, sadness, even inadequacy for some people.
Why is that?
Sometimes it's the pressure, the pressure for that perfect summer you see everywhere. But critically, our sources mention summer SA'd.
Summer essay, like seasonal affective disorder, but in summer.
Precisely. While we usually associate SA with winter, some individuals experience increased anxiety, insomnia, restlessness, even agitation during the warmer, longer months.
Wow, I hadn't really heard much about that.
Yeah, it directly challenges that idea that summer is universally joyful.
Okay.
It creates this hidden vulnerability. The longer days, the warmer weather can actually worsen mental health for some, potentially leading them to use substances to cope. And finally, believe it or not, there's the heat's direct influence.
The actual temperature.
Yes. Hot weather isn't just uncomfortable, it seems to directly increase the risk of alcohol and substance-related hospital visits.
Seriously?
Yeah, there was a big study in New York State from 2023. It found hospital visits for alcohol-related issues went up by nearly 25% when temperatures rose from very cold to about 66 degrees Fahrenheit.
25%.
And visits related to substances, cannabis, cocaine, opioids, sedatives, they rose almost 38% as temperatures climbed to around 51 degrees.
That's incredible.
Other studies back this up too. A 2021 study found alcohol use peaks in summer, especially for men aged 45 to 64. And a 2024 study in Mexico found binge drinking actually increased with every 1 degree Celsius rise in the average annual temperature.
So the heat itself is a physical stressor that links to substance use.
Okay, given all these factors, all these different pressures,
Yeah.
how can someone actually navigate this? How can they not just, survive summer, but actually thrive in their recovery?
That's the key question, isn't it? And the good news is summer doesn't have to be a setback. With the right approach, the right support, it can honestly be a launch pad for stronger, more resilient recovery.
Okay, so what does that look like? What are the strategies?
Well, the first absolutely pivotal element is awareness and planning.
Knowing what's coming.
Exactly. You need to identify your potential triggers proactively. Think about situations, people, even feelings that might be risky for you.
Right.
And then you plan. Either avoid those triggers entirely if possible, or prepare really solid coping strategies for when you can't avoid them.
Like having an exit plan.
Yeah, or planning non-alcoholic drinks to have at parties, having a polite but firm response ready if someone offers you something. Identifying safe spaces you can retreat to if things get overwhelming.
And it's also about staying really tuned in to your emotional health, acknowledging that summer itself can bring unique mental health challenges, like we just discussed. Next up, absolutely critical, the role of a strong support system.
Can't go it alone.
You really can't,
Okay.
not effectively in the long run. Surround yourself with friends and family who get it, who support your journey.
Yeah.
If you are going to socialize, maybe take someone with you specifically to help support your recovery in that setting.
That's a good idea.
Utilize support groups. They're available virtually and in person, so travel isn't always a barrier. And, crucially, don't hesitate to seek professional help from therapists or counselors. As one source put it, it's very hard in the long run to do this just by yourself. Maintaining routine is another big one,
Even with the summer chaos.
especially then. Routine provides that stability and sense of control when everything else feels unstructured. So keep up with regular therapy sessions, support group meetings, build in exercise, meditation, other self-care practices consistently. It's about balancing that summer flexibility with enough structure to keep your recovery practices integrated, not letting them slide. And right alongside that is prioritizing self-care and mental well-being. This is absolutely non-negotiable.
What does that involve specifically?
It's the fundamentals, really. Ensuring a healthy diet, getting regular sleep as much as possible with longer days physical activity, and making dedicated time for relaxation. Practices like meditation or journaling can be incredibly helpful. And, crucially, setting firm boundaries.
Boundaries
Like saying no, being willing to avoid certain gatherings if they feel too risky, or simply declining offers of substances without feeling guilty. Protecting your peace, essentially. Then we get into healthy coping mechanisms and finding sober activities. This is about replacing old patterns with new positive ones.
Okay, give me some examples.
Sure. Physical activity is huge. Walking, cycling, swimming, team sports. It boosts mood, cuts stress, provides structure.
Right.
Meditation helps with relaxation, mental clarity, and that self-awareness you need to spot triggers early. Finding new hobbies could be anything. Painting, gardening, learning an instrument. They offer a healthy distraction from cravings, give you a sense of purpose, and can even lead to sober social connections.
Yeah.
Maintaining healthy eating supports your physical health, which impacts mood stability and overall well-being. And actively seeking out sober social engagements.
Like what kind of things?
You could host your own alcohol-free events, or research alcohol-free venues or activities happening in your area. Join sober social media groups for connection and ideas. Plan sober-friendly travel. It's about consciously building a fun, engaging, sober life. And finally, staying connected to your treatment resources. Recovery isn't a one-and-done thing.
Keep that support line open.
Exactly. Continue with therapy or counseling. Maybe consider outpatient or intensive outpatient programs. Many offer flexible schedules that can work even with summer plans, ensuring you have that continuous professional support.
It really sounds like having these proactive strategies in place. It's like building a really strong safety net, isn't it? It could be the thing that turns what feels like a risky summer into a real season of strength and growth.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. And when you think about that safety net, formal treatment centers often play a vital role, not just for starting recovery, but for managing these kinds of seasonal challenges and supporting that ongoing resilience.
Right. They offer ongoing support.
They offer a whole range of services, really comprehensive.
What kind of services are we talking about, especially if someone's maybe thinking about getting help, perhaps discreetly, during the summer?
Well, they often start with things like detoxification programs, providing a safe way to withdraw. Then there are all sorts of therapy and counseling options.
Like CBT?
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, family therapy, different approaches for different needs. And the goal isn't just stopping the substance use.
Right. It's deeper.
It's about helping people understand the root causes behind their addiction, developing those crucial coping strategies we talked about, and building the motivation needed for sustainable long-term recovery. Many centers now also provide holistic services, things like stress management techniques, nutritional counseling, even physical fitness programs, addressing the whole person.
That holistic approach sounds really important.
It is. Plus, you'll find support groups within the center, relapse prevention education specific to upcoming challenges like summer, and aftercare planning to ensure support continues. They really aim to provide this structured, supportive environment that boosts the chances of lasting recovery, adapting to life seasons, including the summer.
That really does reaffirm that help is available and that there are, discrete private ways of getting support, so many different approaches out there to fit what someone needs. It really hammers home that nobody has to face these challenges alone. So, wrapping this up, in this deep dive, we've really uncovered why summer, despite that, allure of carefree days, actually presents some pretty significant challenges for substance use.
Yeah.
From that spike in first-time initiation to the increased risks of relapse for people already in recovery. But, crucially, we've also shared some powerful, proactive strategies for building resilience, for navigating these complexities with hopefully greater strength.
That's right. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the journey to recovery, it isn't a straight line. It's more like a winding road filled with hills and valleys, and summer can definitely feel like a steep climb sometimes. Our sources really drive home that point. With more awareness, with effective planning, and with the right kind of support around you, it's entirely possible to turn what could be a season of relapse into a season of resilience, maybe even thriving.
So the question for you listening is, what will your summer narrative be this year? How will you maybe leverage some of this knowledge to transform what might seem like a vulnerable time into a season of real growth and strength? We hope this deep dive helps illuminate your path towards a brighter, more fulfilling tomorrow. And seriously, if you or someone you care about is struggling, please remember you are absolutely not alone and help is always, always available. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Showed up with nothing but a plastic bag. Wore all my regrets in a past I dragged. They said, come on in, didn't ask what I'd done. Just handed me keys and said, son, you're not done. The walls don't whisper, they scream out my name. They know my story, but they don't place blame. This roof ain't a palace, but it feels like gold. A new chance to live where my heart can unfold. Clock ticks slow, but it don't rewind. Each second a chance to leave scars behind. A pot on the stove and a chair that won't break. Sometimes it's the small things that fix what aches. The walls don't whisper, they scream out my name. They know my story, but they don't place blame. This roof ain't a palace, but it feels like gold. A new chance to live where my heart can unfold. The ghosts in my mirror, they're starting to fade. The man looking back ain't the one that they made. Each step on this floor is a promise to be a better reflection of the man I can see. The walls don't whisper, they scream out my name. know my story, but they don't place blame. This roof ain't a palace, but it feels like